Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome to yet another episode on Little's Law YouTube channel. Today in this video, we will see about how to install and how to configure the Git in a Windows machine. We have seen so far about various testing tools and techniques, about APIs, and this session and the following sessions will be related to Git and its various other functionalities. So once again, I welcome you all to yet another episode on Little's Law YouTube channel. Please do subscribe, like, and share the video with your friends. So today we are going to see about how to install Git on a Windows machine and how to configure Git in your machine. So let's start. So to install the Git, we need to download the setup file. So let's download the Git file. And here we have got the downloads, and let me choose for the Windows machine. Let us choose for the Windows machine with the latest version, 64-bit Git for Windows setup. Let's now install the file. I'm clicking on S. So let's now start the setup. And the first screen is the license screen. So that tells us about its various terms and conditions. Let's now go through it and we'll click on next. And the very second option is choosing the destination location. So it has given us the program files Git, which is the default installation location. Let's now click on next. And now we have come to the selecting the components. So this is a little bit important one. So let's go through them one by one. So the first option is adding an icon on the desktop. If we are really interested to add an icon on the desktop, we can choose it. Otherwise, we can ignore it. So that's the first option. So we can either choose or we can ignore it. The second option is integrating the Git bash and the Git GUI. So whenever we open or whenever we want to use the Git, we can either use the Git bash and we can either use the Git GUI. So this Git bash will help us to configure to run any Git commands that we want to execute. The third option is the Git LFS, that is the large file support. So what does this large file storage does with Git? So this is part of a component or an extension that is developed by Atlassian, the GitHub, and few other open source contributors. So what does it do? This reduces the impact of large files in our repository while downloading the relevant versions of them. So any time that we make any cloning or fetching, these large files won't be downloaded, and they get downloaded only during the checkout process. So this actually saves us a lot of memory and a lot of time as well. And that's the reason we are choosing the Git LFS while installing the Git. So again, repeating, so this actually saves us a lot of time while cloning or fetching rather than during the checkout process. The next option is associating git star configuration files with the default text editor. So we have various text editors. Say for example, the Sublime or the Notepad, or we have Autumn. So there are various text editors, and this option helps us to associate the .git star configuration files with the default text editor. And next we have the associate.sh files we run with bash. So let's choose that option. And then we have check daily for Git for Windows updates. I believe it's not required for now, so we can ignore it. And adding a Git bash profile to Windows terminal. Again, we can ignore this option as well. And let's click next. So now here we have the option to set up the program shortcut. And we have Git as the shortcut for it. And let's keep it as it is, and we can click on next. And now we have the option to choose the default editor by Git. And in fact, there are a lot of options available. So let's see them. What do we have? We have Vim, that is the default, very default editor that we have with Git. We have Nano editor. It's very small and friendly text editor that runs in the console window. And then we have this Vim editor, which is very powerful, but it can be hard to use. But the user interface is very unintuitive and its key bindings are awkward. Then we have the Notepad Plus, and it's a very popular GUI editor that can be used by Git. And the reason it's disabled is we don't have Notepad installed on our machine. And then we have this Visual Studio. Again, it's an open source and a lightweight and powerful editor that runs as a desktop application, and it comes with a built-in support for JavaScript, TypeScript, and Node.js in case if we work on any of these technologies for the development on C#, Java, Python, we can install this Visual Studio Code. And next we have Visual Studio Code Insider, and we have Sublime. It's again a lightweight editor which supports a great number of plugins. And then we have Autumn, we have VS Codium, and various other default editors or editors that can be used with Git. So for now, let's go with the Notepad Plus, or we can go with the Vim, which is the Git's default editor, and it's an inbuilt editor. So let's choose and let's go with the Vim. I'm clicking on next now. And then the next option is adjusting the name of the initial branch in new repositories. So most of us would have seen about the branches. Normally we start them with the master branch. So let's decide that, or let's keep that as a master. And in case if we really want to make a different name, we can choose it as a main or whatever. We can choose even little or big or main or whatever we want, but it all depends on the choice. We can either choose as main or trunk or development. In case if we are working on different branches, we can even add the organization name. But for now, let's choose or let's keep master as our initial branch. Let's go to the next step. And here we have 3 options in adjusting our path environment. And the first one is using the Git from Git bash only. And this is the most cautious choice, the first option, since the path will not be modified at all. And we will be only able to use the Git command line tools from Git bash. So let's go with the recommended option. And that's the second option, which tells us that the Git from the command line, and it can also integrate from the third-party software. So let's go with the recommended option, and I'm clicking on next. And now we have the option to choose the SSH executable. So this uses the ssh.exe that comes with Git. And in case if we really want to use any external open SSH, we can choose this. But for our demo purpose and for any of your development purpose, you might have or you might require this bundled open SSH. So we can choose that as an option and we can click on next. And then we have the HTTPS transport backend, which supports the SSL or the TLS library. So here we will choose the open SSL library, which will be validated using the CA bundle.crt file. Let's click on next. And now we have the configuring the line ending conversations. So here we have three different options. One is check out the window style and committing Unix style line endings. So here we might have a question, why should I choose the first option? What is LF or what is CRLF and what is this conversion happens? So this LF, which we call as line feed, and the CRLF, which we call as carriage return line feed. So for example, in Windows, if we have both a CR and LF are required to note the end of the line. But in Linux, we have only the LF that is required to denote the end of the line. And this CRLF is used in Windows to denote the end of the line, and this LF is used in Unix to tell the end of the line. And the CR and LF are control characters or bytecodes that can be used to mark a line break in a text file. And CR we call as the carriage return, and this moves the cursor to the beginning of the line without advancing to the next line. And that's the reason we are choosing the first option, that is converting the LF, the line feed, to carriage return line feed that takes or that advances the end of the line to the first line. And again, when committing the text file, the carriage return line feed will be converted to line feed. So that's the reason we are choosing this as our option, and I'm clicking on next. And now let's choose the default terminal, that is MINTTY, and that is the default terminal emulator we have. So let's choose this, and again we have the command.exe, which is the default inbuilt Windows console we have, but that does not support more of a unique code. So in that case, this Minty terminal supports a lot of unique code and it's more intuitive. So let's choose the Minty as our default terminal. And I'm clicking on next. Then we have the default behavior of git pull. Let's choose the fast forward or merge option for the default behavior for git pull instead of rebase or only ever fast forward. So we'll discuss on what is a git pull and what is a fast forward or merge in our future sessions. So for now, let's choose the default as our option, and I'm clicking on next. and we have this Git credential manager. So let's choose this Git credential manager to save the credentials. Clicking on next now, and we will enable the file system caching. Let's click on next. And these two are very new and they are experimental options. In case if we want to try, we can choose it. Otherwise, we can really ignore it. And we can go and install the Git in our machine. So by clicking on install, we are installing Git in our machine. Let's wait for a few more seconds to complete the installation, and we'll start the configuration now. So now we have completed our Git setup or the Git installation. Let's launch the Git bash and check which version of the Git we have installed. So now we have Git installed in our machine. So to know the version of the Git we have installed, we'll have to type git ---- and version. And this will tell us the latest version that we have installed. So we have installed the Git version 2.35.1.windows.2. So let's now configure our Git with username and email. So to do that, we have to type git config global user.name, and here we'll have to enter the username, and let's enter little's law as our username. Little's law is going to be the username for our git config. And I'm clicking the enter button. And now let's add the email address for the configuration part. And it is going to be git config global user.email. Let's add the email address as TCE. Let's configure our email as user.email vasantpce@gmail.com. Let's now click on enter. So far we have configured our username and the user email. Let's now check our configuration has been done correctly. So to do that, we'll have to enter git config global ---- and list. So this will give us the username and the email address we have configured the Git. So far we have installed Git in our machine, and also we have completed the configuration by registering our username and by registering our email ID. In our next sessions, we will see the various other Git actions one by one in a very detailed way. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please do subscribe, share with your friends, and like and comment your feedback. We will meet in another interesting session. Till then, it's bye-bye from Vasant Shanmugam and Little's Law.